all of that money, not, oh, I'll save some of it, or let me have a few months of earning this good money and then I'll think about savings. No, it's human nature to spend whatever money you have coming in. And so it's just a very good habit in life. Whenever you get a pay rise or whenever you stop paying a bill, like a student loan, save all of that money. You don't need it. You didn't need it before. So it's a very good thing to do. Salaried GPs, get your contracts checked, whether that's through me, we check contracts, the BMA, yeah, definitely worthwhile. No charge for that kind of service. GP locums organisation is key. I really like some of them locum apps as well. Things like, I think My Locum Manager, I saw one GP use, and £9.99 a month or whatever it is, and it was just good at keeping tally of all these different practices he was working at and producing the invoices and stuff. Being organised is very important as a locum. If you're not an organised person, be careful, because HMRC does not wait for their tax, and the accountant will only go so far in helping you. They won't do it all for you. Portfolio careers, don't do it for the money. No, you might be confused by why I say that. Most of these portfolio roles, as an example, private general practice, occupational health, medical legal work, I don't know, becoming a TPD, all that type of stuff, it only ever tends to pay salaried GP money. Don't think that there's some magic route that you can go down that's going to make you loads and loads of money. Take it back to basics. The highest earning GPs out there are the partners or the locums that kill themselves and do 10 or 12 sessions a week. Portfolio careers are good, and I would definitely go down that route if it was me, but I'd be doing it more for the enjoyment and for a change of scenery and to mix the job up. That's why I do it. Do it because you have an interest in it, not for the money. And then those final points on there, get a medical specialist accountant. You are going into quite a unique job, so you having a medical specialist accountant is really important, and get a medical specialist financial advisor. You need both, because there'll be times at which I give a very different opinion to what an accountant will say, and so yeah, you speak to us both and kind of bounce between the two individuals, and then yeah, you hopefully make the right decision in the end. But yeah, medical specialist is really important. Final thing I'll say from me, I am doing a prize draw today. One of you is going to win. I'm not sure how many people are on, but I'll say that the odds are very good. I know you guys probably won't be able to click on that link from this live webinar, but we'll get the link sent out so you can click on it, and on there you can say if you did want a meeting with me or a colleague, you can see us. No charge for a meeting. Yeah, hopefully we can help you, whether it's the career planning or with your finances. There's 80 of us across the country, and we're the only GP specialist advisors out there. That is all from me. I think I'm even ahead on time, which probably shows how quickly I've been talking. But yeah, thank you very much. I'll pass you back now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg. Much appreciated for the talk, and thank you. It's very helpful in giving us a lot of insight into finances as a newly qualified GP. We'll hope you stick around for our question and answers at the end at 3:30, if that's okay. Thank you very much. We'll share the link out for you via our emails. So on to the next speaker, Peter Botting, much excited, weighted speaker. He's a TEDMED executive coach. He's a storytelling coach. He was an ex-PCT director for communications and HR, and he's here today to tell us and help us talk about and demonstrate what your worth is. I know as medics we typically find it difficult to negotiate, or because it's something we've never been used to, because been in the monopoly that the NHS is and going from training role to the training role, it's not something we've really done. But then when it comes to getting a job, when you're out in the GP world, it's about selling yourself to each practice and each job and making sure that your worth is known and negotiating that price, because that is flexible and there is room for negotiation. So without further ado, on to Peter Blyth.
Thanks very much. When I was a kid, I thought that all doctors were the same, all dentists were the same, all policemen were the same, all lawyers were the same. And then reality struck, and you find out that doctors are different, jobs are different, positions are different. And I'm going to talk through your the process to getting your first job. You've heard a lot today about managing your finances and what you will get at the end of your final job, but let's talk about the beginning. I've been given those 4 sentences. What's your worth? How do you sell yourself? Are you ready for that career-defining interview? And how do you land your dream job? I'm going to take those in reverse order. I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes. So for the following 15 minutes, there will be 15 minutes of Q&A. So if there's stuff that you don't understand or that I've not been clear on more precisely, make your notes now and get ready to ask the questions, which will be moderated and sent back to me during the second. Otherwise, we're going to have big blank pauses. So how do you land your dream job? As I mentioned earlier, everybody is different. So perhaps you want to be Martin Clunes in Doc Martin and be in a rural, low-key GP practice where you do all sorts of interesting things, but pretty basic stuff. Or you could be a research orientated person, or you might be after prestige, or maybe you're just keen on the cash. And cash is, whether you are focused on cash, your family and your kids in the future will be. So whether you like it or not, cash is an issue. And if you're talking about money, it's really important to think about whatever your entry-level job is. If you get a 10% rise on that for your second job, the difference between you starting at 58,000 a year or 88,000 a year or 100,000 a year, 5% plus every 5 years multiplies. And so the level that you go in at is actually important. The other thing that's really important when you're making decisions about which organization to apply for and how to sell yourself into that organization is the choices that that career give you in the future. So at TEDMED, I've worked with 2 US Army Surgeon Generals, the US Surgeon General. All of those one of them started as a nurse. She broke 2 ceilings by becoming the first US Army Surgeon General who was a woman, but also not a doctor. But she didn't think of that as that wasn't her ambition, that wasn't her goal at the beginning. And it could well be that your career and your goals change, that in 10, 15 years time, you decide that you want to do something else. I've worked with tenured professors at TEDMED again, where I've been coaching for the last 5 or 6 years. And I always thought a tenured professorship is a cool job. You can't get sacked as long as you bring the cash in. But they've given up their jobs because they don't want to be a tenured professor anymore, and they want to start a business or do something else. So whatever you're doing, you need to be thinking, does this fulfill my current definition of a dream job? But does it also give me the choices, or does it give me the options and the choices for whatever my second career is, or my third career? And you know, maybe somebody who's there today might decide they want to give up what they're doing as a GP and end up becoming Minister of Health. You know, there are other options. You could also have your definition defined by money, location, the prestige. Your family could be pushing for it, but you might not want it. What is your definition? And each of you will have different definitions, although you will be initially doing sort of copy and paste of, I want success, I want a soft top cabriolet, I want a house with a white wicker fence, and I want the ability to go on holiday for 6 weeks a year, you know, or whatever floats your boat. The next question is, so let's just before I finish on that, you need to have a think with your partner, ideally, if you're in that situation already, about what your dream job is. What are you looking for, and what is do you want the extra money of London plus the stress of London, or a Birmingham, or do you want the rural lifestyle already? The next thing is, are you ready for that career-defining interview? You have, as we said, there are different types of practices. So you could be going to applying for a ma and pa shop, where the doctor is the man or the woman, and his or her partner is the boss, and the interview is pretty much done. You meet people, they like you or don't like you, and you're offered the job and off you go. Or it could be in a quasi-professional setup where it's a super practice and there's 3 or 4 processes, from application to CV to interview 1 to interview 2, to meet some of the other partners. The levels of professionalism will vary depending on these, the type of practice that you're applying to. You could also have, in those super practices, an HR person. In a small practice, the HR person is the person who's also interviewing, who also will be your boss. So there's a huge amount of variety there, and all of it is not about the next question, which is how do you sell yourself, but more about how you differentiate yourself. And in all of the job applications that you're looking at, in all of the job descriptions that are out there, there are 2 sort of columns. One is the essential and one is the desirable. And most of if you end up speaking about all of your essential characteristics during your interview, you're on the wrong foot, because those are the things that got you in the room. The essential things should have been in the CV. They were to sift out the people that weren't qualified. The desirables, those are the things that will help you stand out from the must-have, the basic stuff, and get you into the final 3, and then get you into the position that you want to be in, where the employer is courting you rather than you being the supplicant, if that makes sense. Because you want them to be saying, what do we have to do to hire this person? What do we have to do to get this person? Not the other way around, where you're going, I don't actually care what you pay me, just give me a job, please. You need to change that whole power dynamic so that you are the courted and not the beggar. Obviously, I can't hear if that makes sense, but I'm sure you'll come back to me in the question. So how do you sell yourself? Selling yourself is part of this whole changing of the power dynamic, is proving that you are different, that you have an overlap in terms of their Venn diagram, because they will have must-haves and then nice-to-haves, where you are an easy fit. Some of the companies that I work with, they sometimes hire me to sit in on interviews, and we often disagree. And they say, Peter, you're great at coaching. The director of comms of one big PLC, he said, you're great at coaching, but you see the potential in people. We want people to start next week. We want people who are able to start and add value immediately. So whether you have a special interest in mental health or whatever the add-ons that surgery wants, they don't want to hire you and then put you on a training course. They probably want you to hire you and for you to be able to be deployed and earning money sooner rather than later. So what is your worth? Your worth is defined by what differentiates you rather than what gets you in the room. And it's also defined by how you tell your own story. If you just come up with a staccato list of characteristics that you have, I've got this certificate and I've got that certificate and I've got that certificate, that's just, that just doesn't move the conversation. You need to turn the conversation from the past to the future. So when the employer starts asking, how would you work in this situation? How would you do this? And what sort of money would you be looking at? That's when you know that you've been successful. When you're constantly in the interview talking in the past, then effectively you're acting as the defendant, trying to justify your past, whereas you're trying to move from conversation about the past into a conversation about the future, where you're actually pre-negotiating in an interview what your terms and conditions would be, whether you're doing weekends or nights, or what sort of voluntary work they expect you to do, unpaid suddenly. And you need to be moving in each stage of that conversation into the future tense. Now, storytelling is essential for a number of things. First of all, we're all conditioned to relate to stories, but stories are also memorable, and memorability is one of your big issues, because you're very seldom hired by the first person who sees your CV or sees you, particularly in a super practice, because they will be needing to present you to the other partners, to the other people. If it's a Ma and Pa shop, the person who sees your CV first will need to pass it on to the Ma or the Pa. So retellability is not just, you don't get anybody retelling a list, oh, this person had this, this, and this. Retellability is what this person did in the situation. This was the situation this person was faced with. This is what they did, and this was the outcome. That's the whole retellability. So at every stage, you want to be telling stories that get you through into the next phase, so that you're not excluded. Because all of these levels of interview, they're there to exclude people. And the more demand that there is for a place, if it's a Harley Street, let me just imagine something, a Harley Street, well-paid, nice clientele, nice patient list, they're going to get a lot more applicants. So what does each phase do? Each phase excludes people. You're excluded from your at application level, then at CV level, then at telephone interview, then at partner one interview, then at group partner interview. And what you need to be doing is telling stories so that at each stage, everybody says, that person who did this, they should go through to the next stage. They should go through to the next stage. Now, somebody is typing away feverishly there. So it looks like we have a bunch of questions, which I'm here to answer now.
Hi, thank you, Peter, for a brilliant talk. I'll start with some questions for you, and I think most of the questions will come in at question and answer session at 3:30, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. So one of the questions was, how much time and would you put into preparing for an interview, and what are the techniques you would use? Would you go through, for example, would you write some example questions and go through it at someone and practice? What techniques would you advise?
Well, there's two things, there's two sides to that. And any interview process is almost like a male and female thing. It's like a plug and play. So you have to spend time on preparing your story about what your experiences were, what your qualifications were, what extra pieces of work or research, or you know, whether you're competitive, whether you play competitive sports, what is there that's extra about you? But then you also need to do bespoke research on that employer. What if it's a super practice? What are their growth areas? Where are they hoping to expand? What are they aiming to become in a 5 or 10 year period? And how would you prove to them that you could contribute to that growth aspects, or that growth perspective that they would be wanting if you were to become a partner? Because as a partner, as a co-owner, they would be expecting you to not just be a a clinician, but actually somebody who can contribute to the ownership and the corporate business vision. If it's a ma and pa shop where they're very much into the community and they're into being part of the community, and their whole focus is totally different. So if you go in there talking about corporate expansion and digitalization and remote versus in-person consultations, they're just going to switch off because you're not talking their language. So you need to spend time developing your own part of the plug and play, and then do research so that, and see where that overlaps.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for that. Another question that comes through, it's especially a problem with medics we find typically, is that we don't talk money. We've never talked money. People just don't know money when it comes in the healthcare sector or in the public sector, to be honest. It's just something that's never been done by us, something we don't have any experience in. And so what happens when people go into the workforce having qualified is that people don't know where to set their mark, and and sometimes they're actually giving the advice that, actually if you argue too much, negotiate too much, you're seen as a difficult person, whereas it's necessarily not the case. So how do you set the limits, and when do you know this is I'm not getting anywhere with negotiation, this is somewhere I walk away? How do you know when actually they're talking, we can carry on, and maybe I should carry on asking these guys that whether we can do more? How do you set that? How do you know when is the line and how not to?
Well, there's a couple of points there that if you're going to be going to somebody who's already going to an employer who's already tight-fisted and not keen on spending a lot of money, perhaps you also need to think, is this a place that you want to make your home for the next 3, 4, 5 years? Because if this is what they're like now, what are they going to be like when they're suddenly expecting you to do weekend shifts or evening shifts or voluntary work? So start off not cantankerous, but be firm. After all, as a clinician, as a GP, you have to be firm and decisive with your patients in any case. They also may well think, particularly in a super practice, that if you're not able to sell yourself and negotiate for yourself, then you're probably not best suited to become a co-owner of the organization in years to come, because you don't have the ability to negotiate for the business if you're not able to negotiate for yourself. A long time ago, I got a job and it had a salary band, and the band was from X to X, and I was unusually bashful, and I went for X minus a little bit, but I was in the sort of upper 75% of the band. And I was hired, and my boss later told me that if I'd asked for a couple of £1,000 less, he wouldn't have hired me on the basis that if I wasn't able to sell myself, how could I sell for him? And I think the whole thing is that you need to be aware of your worth, which is which is question one. But you only understand that when you have looked in the mirror and spent some time either with somebody like me or also just evaluating what have you got, what is the demand and supply for people like you in that area, in that location, and if you're asking, you can never go up. If you're asking for 58, you can never negotiate up to 65, because you'll be lucky if you get that in year 3. If you're asking for 78 or 85, then you can generously concede to take 3 grand off. But you need to have done your research. You need to understand what the numbers are in that area for that type of practice with your type of experience. And what I often find is people, they will concentrate on what I call fool's gold. They will say, I've got this qualification, so I must get more. Actually, that qualification just got you in the room. The thing that will get you the biggest salary is something that's probably in that desirable list and not in the essential list.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much for that. One of the other questions that's come through is, how do you negotiate without coming across like a diva? Should you negotiate via email or phone, or is it generally done better face to face?
You shouldn't. You should always negotiate face to face, but you should remember when I talked about you being the courted rather than the beggar. If you are the courted, they will be then pushing you to, if you've done your pitch where you're getting them to bid for you rather than you saying, please take me because I'm desperate and I just want a job, and whatever you're paying me, I'm fine with it. I'm sure that you'll be nice to me and you'll give me the right amount of money and it's fine, honestly. You don't want to be that person. You want them to be saying, okay, is this an interesting position for you? To which your answer is not necessarily yes, it's potentially yes. It's yes, in the right circumstances. I'd like to meet some of your patients. I'd like to meet some of your partners. I'd like to meet some of the support staff. I'd like to meet this. I'd like to bring my partner or my spouse, because this is you're going to be part of the family, and this better be a happy family. Because if it's not in the beginning, it's going to get worse.
That's perfect. Thank you very much for that. And is there any parting final advice you'd give a young GP going? Because we know, I know in the media, it seems, NHS heroes on the front line saving lives, but unfortunately, those a select few, or quite a portion of the GP workforce who are doing self-employed work as locums, where they're just doing ad hoc shifts, have been hit hard, and there is no work for them. So the market has been flooded with them and freshly newly qualified GPs looking for full-time employment. So it is a tough climate at the moment. Is there any parting wisdom that you can part to them as to how to?
There is a need for some sort of awareness, of commercial awareness. But in all jobs, all of my clients, when I'm coaching people for graduate, for their first job, or for a senior exec becoming a partner in a law firm or similar, you need to be a winner, which is proved by logical logos type style. This person has got this degree, has done this, has done this, has done this. But you also need to be likable. That doesn't mean that you can't be firm in your salary demands, but a likable winner, somebody who will fit in with the team, somebody who will not be a dick, somebody who's going to be an asset, not just technically and clinically, but also in the human sense, going to be a value add in terms of being a cool family member. I've worked with some people who are, if you're going to base your whole career on your clinical ability and not have any input into and not focus any attention or energy onto your human likability, you had better be damn good at your clinical ability, because unless you are extraordinary in your clinical ability and accomplishments, that will be negated in your career by your lack of likability.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today, Peter, and thank you very much for giving up your time. And we really appreciate it, because, like I said, it's a big area where clinicians are negotiating in money and selling ourselves much. Peter has also kindly offered us a special package today to all people who are attending live and on our mailing list, with a 10% discount for coaching sessions with him, which he normally does for graduate internship applications, but would be quite applicable, I reckon, for the GP workforce. So I'll just let him have a few minutes to talk about a little about that, and then we'll conclude.
Right. So what I do with people who are freshly qualified, whether they're going for a big law firm or a Bain Capital or indeed into research or academia, and I've worked with a few universities that you would recognise the names of, is helping people get through those various stages of the interview. So it's the application, the CV. Do you write a covering letter? If so, what do you put into it? How do you display in a one-page sheet of words what makes you different? How do you differentiate yourself, and how do you tell stories about yourself? And then how do you go into the next level? You know, is it a telephone interview, which has issues? It's more staccato. It doesn't have any facial or so much facial feedback. Zoom interviews or Teams interviews, which is increasingly just part of the process. And how do you then go into meet the other partners? How do you do that research? How do you what do you dress? How do you dress? How do you know, all of those minefields littered with potential faux pas that you could eliminate yourself by doing. But it starts from pre-CV to identifying your strengths, understanding what your goals are and what your definition of a dream job is, and what you bring to the table, and making sure that nobody leaves meetings with you unaware of what you bring to the table and why you are of value and a better choice than your competitors. By definition, because of COVID, this is all done via Zoom, and I've worked for a long time, 4 or 5 years, via Zoom or equivalent Skype and so on, and we can break this up over a couple of days because, unfortunately, you probably don't want to hear this, you do get homework. You get about 15 hours of homework, which needs to be reviewed, and it's basically working on remember I talked about plug and play, it's helping develop your half of the plug and play process. So, and also working on how to research and what to research when you're looking for the other half of the plug and play unit.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time and answering all these questions. And it'd be great if you can stick around for a little while, if that's okay, for the question and answer session at 3:30. Next up is Dr. Dilsher Singh, who will be talking about fellowship. So Dr. Singh is the cardiology lead for specialty GP with special interests at Modality, and he's also a TPD in Walsall, and he'll be talking to us about what to do and whether to consider doing a GPsI role and whether the fellowship's worth it.
Thank you for inviting me. I've been part of these now GP Leavers Conference, as we used to call it, and still call it in the Midlands, since I was a trainee myself. So it goes back, 2010 was the first one I joined in. And now 10 years down the line, a decade later, I'm now at TPD and helping out share what's the best landscape for you guys going forward. So I was given the spiel by both of them. They wanted to make my life difficult, and they wanted me to talk about time management. And I thought, okay, GPwSI stuff is easy. Okay, I can talk about this. Time management, that's difficult. Okay, I'm still struggling to get some of my trainees to enter log entries. So how do I get time management sorted in 15 minutes? Okay, so let's see what I can do. Okay, so before we move on to what time management and other stuff, let's just go through the spiel that I was given, which was about, so let me see if you guys can see it. Can you see the presentation visible? Okay. There we go. So let's talk about what are the options beyond CCT. So we all know about these conventional options, yeah, which includes, being a GP partner, being salaried, being a locum or freelance or out of hours. Those are the conventional options, yeah. And we all know that, and you guys have been through it yourself, and you definitely had a feeling of what that means as part of your ST3 years, okay? So then there is this option which sounds quite attractive and catchy, is the portfolio careers, where actually you go and start to decide what you want to do with your week. So the way you need to look at your week is you make it into Lego, okay? In the sense that you got 10 sessions throughout the week. So those 10 sessions, how you want to play around with those sessions, it is open to your own drive and interpretation, really. So in that you can do lots of multiple portfolio roles, which is what we some of us have found really exciting. And then in all of those roles, slowly you start to find out where actually your drive lies, and then you move on and develop 2 or 3 of those roles into a full-blown career for rest of your working lives. However, it doesn't mean that it just starts with that. Most of us go through our life's journey in different ways. It is, one way of working is not the same for the other. So some of our GPs have been through the ruckus of conventional careers, and they found actually, you know what, I have done what I wanted to do. I'm starting to feel a little bit stale. I want to do something different. And they go down the route of portfolio careers, and that's where the next bit lies. And so portfolio career is open to you throughout your working life as a GP, really. And then as part of that, some of us have started to develop our own, special interest in different fields. So myself, I have always had, a special love and inclination towards cardiology. And I wanted to develop that again, being in primary care, and then enrolled on to the postgraduate course and completed my post-graduation for cardiology. So GP with special interest varies. Okay, the way you need to understand is the package can vary. The advantages, well, advantages are, yes, before I move on, you know about GP partners and salaried, so I don't want to bore you with it. But with each of these roles, you have to understand as we move on, there are advantages and disadvantages of any career path you take. Whether that's partner, where you get stability and total control of your earnings, but at the same time you have disadvantages of parity, employment responsibility, extra headache of partnership. Same with salary. You have disadvantages of workload, pay, but the advantages are, which is actually what everybody is finding recently with the COVID environment, is that there is fixed commitment, your employment rights are there, everybody gets paid at the right time, you get your study leave, annual leave, sick leaves. There's a lot of resources out there. The prominent one that I want to mention is National Association of Sessional GPs. They've got some really good stuff and good resources that you should look at. Obviously, those of you who are BMA members, you should look at BMA website, and they have a lovely handbook about salaried GPs, which takes you through all your employment right, pension contributions, and what is expected of you. Freelance, as you all know, I'm not going to bore you with it. Out of hours, some may find that really useful because, yes, juggling between life, work, and personal life. Some of our colleagues have found it really useful to work as out of hours, so they can support their partner or they can support their relatives, parents, aging parents. Lots of us have lots of other responsibilities beyond just being professionals. And out of hours GPs, maybe for some of them who really find that useful. The disadvantages, you're working on social hours, there is higher premiums and higher litigation rate. And obviously you become de-skilled from routine GP work of doing, usual chronic disease management, because out of hours you only get mostly acute cases and acute emergencies. Yeah. So we've talked about portfolio careers, portfolios. There are lots of them. They keep, adding up in terms of what these are. And if I was to say, there's dearth of opportunities out there. Some of my colleagues I know are doing insurance medical, somebody's doing occupational health, and those of you who got a lot of, I would say, drive towards going out and helping communities, of enjoying some experience abroad, humanitarian work, international work. There's lots of those, available, and there are some big organizations that actually help seek those opportunities for you, especially in terms of humanitarian work. I know there's one out of all these portfolios, there's one which is this one, which is humanitarian work, which actually results in life-changing experiences, and not just life-changing experiences, very, very, very high satisfaction, and jobs, sense of, I would say, it's in terms of those who've done it. I've met them before they embarked on their placement, and after they've come back. It's very, very rewarding to be able to do something like that, and to add that to your portfolio. I mean, less, the more I can say is not enough, but it's something that's got to be experienced and enjoyed. But you know what? Who doesn't enjoy annual leaves? Yeah. So if there is anybody here who actually loves and enjoys annual leave, then this one I would recommend definitely for anyone who is interested in this. There is 17 weeks of annual leave, right? And you know what's the best part? Because you earn all your salary while at sea, there is no HMRC. So actually, it's just brilliant, as a career for those who are interested in looking at places, who want to be travel the world for free. It works. There is obviously disadvantages of being away from family, isolation, and everything else. Prison doctor is something I would highly recommend for those who are looking for some niche careers, because don't forget there are 140 prisons in UK, and you know what? There's a wide experience out there, and they've really got very attractive packages. But then you have to remember, it may not be for all. Okay, you don't pick and choose the patients you see. You'll have to see all the patients that are there in that facility, and it can be difficult for some who may struggle to engage with patients who've done lots of things which are against their core values. So it may not be for some, but it may be for others who actually finds such experiences amazing. I know of a friend of mine who does this, and he says he feels the most safest inside the prison, because the patients who come to him, even those who are hardened criminals, they actually are on their best behavior, because he has to sign their leave off, which is great, and it results in a really good doctor-patient relationship. But that's prison doctors. Going back to this discussion about extended roles. Now, we used to be called GPSIs earlier, GP with special interest. But this role has now gone through some iterations, and RCGP has now started to look at this with an extended role document. And now we are called as GPs with extended roles, GPwSI, as we call it, rather than GPSIs. Okay, so the list can be endless. You can be a GPSI in cardiology, elderly medicine, ENT, diabetes. We can go on and on about any of this, really. There's a lot to specialize in. So those of you who are interested in this, now there are some caveats and some advantages to think about. So absolutely, it's an excellent opportunity to develop your special interest. In terms of job satisfaction, and I believe it has a really, really high job satisfaction rate. I really enjoy on the days that I'm doing cardiology work. And this allows you to the opportunity to actually look at the system strategically and develop new referral pathways, influence healthcare in a wider perspective. You know, you're delivering care not just across your practice, but across a wide geographical area. It allows you to evolve as a leader. However, you have to remember, it's not as structured a pathway like GP training, like, specialist training. So you've got to create your own career path. You'll have to chart your own way going forward. It can be quite daunting. It can be isolating because how many other GPSIs are there? You got to find your networks. So, when I was looking at GPSI in cardiology, there was only one other GPSI I knew in the whole region. And then once I started to dig, I found 3 in the whole of Midlands. I mean, it was quite a daunting prospect, at the start of this journey. And then there are lots of concerns, risks. What are you going to do? How are you going to develop it? What will happen? How will this progress? And that's not easy. It can be frustrating getting stakeholders engagement. And don't forget, you got to manage your own CPD, and you got to manage that quite proactively yourself, because there's no, handle on somebody looking after you. However, that has recently changed now. The college has come back with some framework. So this is definitely something those of you who want to go down this path need to look at that. So there's an RCGP framework for GPwSI, and that's the policy statement document. It talks about how and what are the governance structures in place, what is it you need to watch out for. And similarly, if I go further up, they've experimented with lots of specialities, and if I may share, some of this may include like dermatology. They've actually worked with British Association of Dermatologists and Primary Care Dermatology Society. And actually, guess what? They've come up with a lovely document that takes you through the guidance and competencies to support you through the accreditation rules to become a GPwSI in dermatology or skin surgery. And similarly, they're coming up with frameworks, specialty by specialty for each of these. So a good resource would be to go to this website. If you type in on Google RCGP and GP with extended role, it'll bring you to this resource here, and then you click on it and it takes you to the website, really. So and then over on that website, I have to say there are some really useful resources. So this is the website which for general practitioner with extended roles. It takes you through the frameworks, governance structures, what that involves, what are the roles. And if you go into this is the document that I was mentioning, which is the framework document that the college has developed in collaboration with other colleges. And so you see here what accreditation, what that involves, routes of accreditation, what do you have to do. It takes you through what the competency roles, what are the GMC requirements. An absolutely useful document. Those who are looking for dermatology, it's straightforward. You just need to follow this document, which is this guidance competency document. And then you just go through this. It takes you through the curriculum principles, syllabus, teaching and learning, assessment, the requirement of evidences that you need. And then once you've done that, you become a GP with extended role. And then how do you maintain those competencies? It's self-explanatory. I just want to signpost you to this document, and then it takes you through this. Like this is a syllabus content. This is what is expected of you. This is what you need to know. Content of training. Look at that. It just takes you through a step-by-step process, really. Now you can go to each specialty had its own primary care society. Yeah. So this is Primary Care Dermatology Society. So PCDS, you can see primary care dermatology framework that takes you through, the governance structure, what they involve, what is the general guidance about commissioning around it, how can you look at getting some innovation funding? What is it you can do? What are the requirements? And there's dearth of resources like that. Similarly, for those who are interested in cardiology, you're welcome to contact me, and I'll try and help you steer through it. But this is the course I did. I did go to this University of Bradford, which is distance learning course. You get to do over 18 months. You apply for this, and then you find your local mentor, and then you go through these 4 modules. Okay, so there are these modules: ischemic heart disease, hypertension, arrhythmia, heart valve, and cardiomyopathies, and applied methodology. So these 4 modules, 3 clinical and 1 non-clinical module. You complete this. I did this over a period of 18 months. That allows you to then get your post-graduation qualification towards special interest in cardiology. Similarly, they run lots. University of Bradford runs lots of other courses for GPwSI. There's GPwSI in gynecology course run by them. There's a hysteroscopy course run by them. GPwSI in respiratory medicine. Like that, there are courses run by this university, and there are others as well. There is RELA courses. If you go on to find RELA and GPwSI courses, and that brings you up very nicely to their website. They run postgraduate courses, which is the RELA group, and that these are postgraduate diploma in cardiology, dermatology, diabetes, ENT, you name it. Yeah, they've got lots of these, which again you can do. So again, you need to choose the right course that fits in with your learning style. It's not just one course fits all. Yeah, it's something you have to experiment and experience yourself, really. And that's where the bottom line is for any of these courses. You're all aware of how you all manage your own learning. So you may need to choose the right university, right course provider that fits in, who can work with your learning needs. Those of you who are doing dermatology, there is a well-established course run by Southampton University, which is brilliant. Warwick University runs it. Those of you looking at diabetes, Warwick University runs a good one, which is nationally accredited, really. So you can look at those similar courses, or you can go to the primary care society for each of them. So classical example for me is primary care cardiovascular society, which is obviously on my resource page. And this primary care cardiovascular society has their annual conference. They've got lots of resources to network with other GPwSIs. They have their own annual conference where you can attend. Similarly, for other specialties, primary care diabetes society runs their own annual conference. Primary care, so gynecology isn't there, but diabetes is definitely there, and dermatology definitely is there. So like that, you have to find the primary care arm of the specialty you are interested in, which helps you to go towards choosing your career going forward. So that's something about resources to look for. My trainees know I don't like to news read I just like to signpost, and you're all adult learners. You go and find what you think is right. From the perspective, from my point of view here, is to share and signpost you to the resources. And the resources, Google is the best resource at the moment, isn't it? You can find everything, including, how to manage your life, I guess, on Google. So go out, seek opportunities that you want to, and then develop in that field that you feel strongly about. The only tip I've got is, whatever you decide, try and seek mentors in that field who will guide you through the process. They've been there and done that. So learn from their experiences. That's one take-home message I'll say. Whatever specialty you want to do, try and seek somebody in the country up and down who's done it. And hopefully that person can guide you through some of the process. But don't forget, their journey is going to be different from your journey. Each of us are a master of our own destiny, really. So another take-home message for you guys today from me is, there is nothing to fear. You just need to have a conviction about what you want to do as a specialty, and then go and do it and deliver it. Find mentors, find peers who are doing it, and make things happen. Really, that is the way forward with anything in life, I guess. Now going back to, I've got now literally 9 minutes, and I've got to cover time management. That's not a good start for time management, is it? Okay, so let's talk about time management if we have to, in a way that makes sense. And you know what? This is something you will have to experience yourself. But here are some tips that I like to share from personal experience that works. Okay, so time management. How do you manage your week, and how do you manage what you do? So take my example. So my working week is split across different sites. Monday morning, I have cardiology session. Monday afternoon, I've got a GP session. Then Tuesday morning and afternoon, I've got a GP session. Wednesday, I do cardiology clinic morning and afternoon. Thursday morning is ARCP, any of these TPD related activities. Thursday afternoon is my VTS. When VTS is not running, we go for trainer site approvals, trainee approvals, events, you name it. TPD just doesn't involve, the fancy part is coming and sitting up in the VTS and facilitating. That's the easy part. The difficult part is doing everything else in the background: curriculum, new documents, supporting trainers, supporting trainees. That all goes on in the background. So, the job is never a one session job at all. You're always in the process of trying to help trainers, and lots of other things going on in the background. So how do you manage? So first and foremost about time management is that, the process of organizing and planning yourself. So you need to learn to divide your time between your specific activities. Okay. So the way you need to understand management is that you need to work smarter, not harder. Okay. So that you can get things more done in the less time, and maintaining time pressures in a frame that you have. So for me, each day I like to finish all the tasks that I can for that day. There's an interesting document on making time in GP. So I've tried to incorporate this document into our general practice. So how can we make sure we free up enough GP capacity in our working week? So makes our working week in such a way that we can actually deliver patient care by being more patient facing, rather than having to worry about filling up information medicals or DWP reports and all that. So incorporating that in your life in general practice is really useful. This is not about time management. This is about working as a GP effectively. So highly recommend reading this document. Really good report. Lots of action points to take away. Practical tips: delegating tasks, making sure you can have people around you who you can deliver, who you can pass on your tasks to. Things like prioritizing, making sure what is the priority for the week. So start of the week, making sure what is your priority for this week, where do you have to spend more time this week, on which of your job profiles. Creating schedules, we all know it works. We've got lots of apps and stuff like that, and I'm sure all of us like to keep their own. So I prefer to have this app which works for me. This is called Air Tracker Pro, which looks slightly differently. Okay, so this is Air Tracker Pro. I find that really useful. Every task that I'm doing, I'm logging on it. It works for me. It helps me to then prioritize what I need to do. It sends me pings. There are lots of other apps. Things is the other one. If you've not tried it on the App Store, that's a brilliant app for customizing your week and prioritizing your week. It works very well, and it also pings you a GPS, related reminders. Of course, I've got no shares in any of these apps, so you feel free to use whatever you want. Okay, this is again just an example of what you can use. Okay, going back to the other principles of time management, making sure you set yourself deadlines when you are building your working week, making sure when you're trying to finish projects, try not to procrastinate and worry about what you want to do. And obviously look at opportunities of coping mechanisms of avoiding stress, rewarding yourself with a little bit of treats here and there during your working week. And this concept of multitasking, you can go to any time management course or any leadership workshop. Reality is, guys, multitasking doesn't work. Okay, we all think we can multitask, but getting to deliver one task and then move on to the other is the right way forward. But most of us think we can, and it may be for some who can. I struggle multitasking. I like to finish one task at a time and move on. Looking to make sure you have a downtime during your week to keep yourself sane and enthused. And for me, my downtime is absolutely the day that, for me, the working week is Thursday afternoon is my time with catching up with all of you guys at my VTS. I really relish that opportunity to be able to be among, young minds. And I'm not saying this because just a cliche, but those of you who know me at my at my VTS, that for me is absolutely rewarding to be among these bright young brains that you guys are, constantly challenging the limits of knowledge, which is brilliant. I'm sure the others will have other opportunities to do what you enjoy. Maybe for some of you, the downtime may be Netflix. They've got lovely series these days. It's brilliant. For the others, it may be enjoying a sports hobby, anything. The downtime is unique to you. But can I just say something else, which is very important for time management? Learning to say no and how to balance what you really need to do. Do not take up more than what you can accommodate. Okay, and I've been a living example of that. At one point, I had 15 different roles during my week, and I really struggled to deliver on all of them. So I had to actually really pick and choose which are the ones that I can genuinely make a difference to. So, and I prioritized that and changed it. So you see, there are lots of benefits. It allows you, if you choose and manage your time wisely, there is obviously rewards with less stress, professional reputation, getting good productive, getting your kudos out there, great opportunities and developing career goals. There will also be concerns. If you're trying to juggle too many plates, you're going to become inefficient, you're going to miss deadlines, that's going to cause high stress level, that's going to cause a poor reputation, that's going to stall your career. So they all come in packages, right? Like everything else in life, things come in packages. They come in Happy Meals. Yeah. Those of you who enjoy McDonald's, it comes as a combo, doesn't it? Everything in life. So on a conclusion note, I've got to say, listen, time management is something you will have to explore what works for you. Okay. But what you really need to do when you're going out there, when you're starting to look for jobs, the CCG resources, BMJ career ads, word of mouth, CCG mailing lists, look through NHS employers' websites, go through personal or WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the other one. I should actually add that to the slides for next time. There are lots of WhatsApp groups out there which are doing. We've got one for GP networking. I developed that 5 years ago at our Leavers conference, and now that group called GP networking has got more than 200 plus colleagues on there. The people come and go, so usually we have a ballpark figure of 200 250 members on that group. So again, those of you who are interested, contact Kamran. I'll add both of them to the group and make sure that they can be the admins and they can start adding more onto that group. So you're welcome to. So that allows opportunity for you to network with your peers, have a chat, anything like that. Okay. Training, yeah, you need to develop your portfolio. Don't forget, the portfolio doesn't go away, it still stays. The only difference is there's no TPDs or ARCPs that keep an eye on you. You just have to work through your portfolio. There are lots of them out there. There is a one for 14 fish. There is Clarity, which is the most widely used one. And then again, when you're planning jobs, finding opportunities, negotiate, just be mindful that there is, when you're negotiating more, that also results in more responsibility, more headaches. So you need to find your balance. What is it you want to achieve out this job, whether you want to be salaried, whether you want to go on APMS practice. PMS practices are no longer existing, so GMS practices. They'll have a national pay scale. And again, the salary GPs, this is an old slide, old figure, so I can take that out actually. Now it's the ballpark figure for salaried is around 9,500 across Midlands, and some places are offering 10K. For some that may be the right way forward while they're trying to find their feet, getting to know general practice a bit more before they decide what they want to do with their working week. Okay. GMSF practice, remember, should have to follow the BMA model contract. So having a BMA membership helps because they'll then look after you. And there is something else I did want to mention, which I didn't get a chance to, is about the new fellowships that are coming out. So there are new fellowships that have been developed, which have gone live. So these are Black countrywide at the moment, where they are being funded through NHS England. They will be PCN specific. There'll be a detailed induction program. There'll be a CPD session, monthly structured learning set. There'll be access to portfolio career scheme. There'll be access to funding and mentorship. So for example, this is how week 1, 2, or 3 looks on that scheme. There's an induction structure for this. There'll be support for first 5 activities, learning set, learning along with opportunities for you to develop. There'll be conferences, celebration events, and obviously you get all of this. As first 5, you get some of these stuff anyways. But as fellowship, you get a funded supervision for 6 months, increase appointment time for 6 months, backfill for CPD for 6 months, leadership opportunities, you name it. So application process will be starting shortly. You'll start to hear of them. There will be evaluation period, which we'll work on with NHS England. That's something I'll work on in the background with NHS England to develop this as we go along. But again, I genuinely believe in some of these schemes. The schemes are you could call this post-CCT fellowship. This is a new version of a post-CCT fellowship. The good thing for those of you who are coming out now in August, these fellowships are only allowed for you guys now, those who are within 12 months of their CCT. So actually, previous fellowship programs, anybody could apply up to 5 years. Actually, any first 5 could apply, but now they made the criteria stricter. So actually, in this post-COVID environment, where you're not going to find any locum jobs really, this may be the best opportunity for you to go and develop yourself and evolve as a leader, and at the same time develop your special interest while still getting the benefit of having some kind of a VTS, post CCT, and getting paid for learning. How cool is that, right? Like you used to get paid for the VTS, yeah. Same concept. You get paid for learning post CCT. Yeah, I wish I had this. If I had this, I would have gone from one scheme to the other. You name it. I would have definitely done few of those. But times have changed. They've started to realize you guys are a precious resource. Nobody cared about me when I came out of CCT. They said, "Oh my God, thank God he's finished." Okay, my TPDs had a sigh of relief. But you know what? Now it's definitely a buyer's market. There's a lot of opportunity for you guys to be retained in general practice. So use these opportunities, okay, and evolve. That's my take-home message, really. There's nothing better than actually, finding an opportunity to get mentorship post CCT, getting support post CCT. There's no TPDs out there, right? There's no clinical supervisor, no ESS. You're now on your own. Okay, so getting a program like this may work. Okay, so something to think about. On that note, I have concluded what I had to say.
I think the first question was, if that's okay, Dr. Singh, is what were the apps you recommended? Maybe if you forward me a list of them, I can send them out. I don't think people caught that. Is that all right?
What is it? Sorry.
The applications you recommended to manage time. Maybe if you can give me a list of them, and then we can send it out in the email after the event. Would that be okay?
Okay. The best part is generally there is the one I use is A Tracker. A Tracker, TRACKER, A Tracker. It comes as a free version, then it comes as a Tracker Pro version. Okay. Then there is the other one called Things, 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 like as in things. Okay. If you go to Google Store or you go to our App Store, yeah, under productivity, there are hundreds of apps to choose what you want to do. So again, it's courses for horses, right? I'm not going to teach my way is the right way. Okay, time management is all about you managing your time, not me managing your time, right? So and same concept with learning, it's got to be you guys finding what works for you. So actually, the answer is App Store, productivity app, and find it. there are hundreds. Okay. The two I use are mentioned. I use the ones which is Things and A Tracker Pro. Okay. Okay. Moving on then. What's the next question?
The next question was in terms of getting started. People are asking whether, do you take a normal salary job and then go on to this, and then the other question is, what kind of qualifications do you do? Do you need, for example, in your role, do you need an MRCP or would a diploma in cardiology?
So as I explained, I did a postgraduate diploma course, which allowed me to, so I'll show you this one now. So what I was saying was, so this is the course I did, GP practitioner with special interest cardiology. Okay, this is an 18-month distance learning with portfolio. You have to maintain and attend clinics. So I had to do, so for 18 months, I had to find a consultant mentor and do clinics in that specialty in hospital. But those of you who are coming out now in Midlands, you don't have to worry about that. You come, we've got a fully functioning cardiology unit. Okay, so I'm happy to provide those placements and those fellowships in our in my department for those of you who want to do it. Okay, in an environment that you find useful, but you have to understand there is a commitment to any of these GPSI roles. It's not as if you go there and it's a one-day course or an evening 2 hours course. You're committing yourself to serious, decent CPD. That's 100 hours of CPD per module is what I'm talking about in cardiology. Okay, that's 100 hours per 6 months modules, yeah? And then you got to do competencies, evidence-based, maintaining some evidences that you need to then get signed off. So it's not as if a walk in the park. There are different routes for different specialties. For example, there is a route for occupational health. You just have to do a 2-day course, right? Once you've done that course, you got to do an assignment, an assessment, and you are trained as a occupational health, consultant in primary care. So that's a different concept. Okay, but in terms of specialty wise, the gynecology, again, you got to have an 18 months diploma. Dermatology has a 1-year diploma. So it varies according to specialties. Okay, Tuva, can't hear you.
The other question was, how do you come across these opportunities? Where will the fellowships come? I know NHS England have just yesterday announced this.
Yeah, just yesterday announced. So those are post-CCT fellowships. That's a different concept. That is, you are getting back onto the escalator. They're going to look after you for the next 6 months to a year, and you're sorted. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, but the opportunities in that are going to be decided. The learning is going to be decided by the PCNs. So you just need to be mindful to choose the learnings or opportunities in the PCN that works for you in terms of what their priorities are going to be. So it's not as if I want to do cardiology and I'm going to work in a PCN down south. If their priorities are different, then the funding may not work with that. Does it make sense? These are PCN learning needs assessments that helps to develop these. Okay. So just be mindful of those. Opportunity wise, so locally in Midlands, in modality, we've got now 15 different specialties, including dermatology, pediatrics, gynecology, ENT, orthopedics, cardiology, rheumatology, you name it. So you're welcome to contact us and we'll help you to signpost into any of those that you are interested in locally here in Midlands. Elsewhere, I would say outside, by Midlands, I mean Birmingham and around in Walsall. Again, we will help these, but beyond that, the other areas, there are opportunities to develop a GPSI role at any time. You don't need a platform to develop a GPSI role. You start as a GP wherever you want to be, and then you find your avenues to develop these. There is dearth of opportunities of finding fundings. You can find it through the STP pathway, through Innovation Fund, through PCN funding, through some of your practices may invest in you. If you are going to a practice and they find you as a partner material, they are going to invest in you. If you come, for example, if you come to my practice and I notice that you've got potential, am I not going to invest in you as a partner? Obviously, because I need to have you around the table, right? So this is all now post CCT, guys, is all about negotiation. Okay, it's about negotiating the right deal with the right person. And if you don't get the right deal, you move on and find somebody else. Okay.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, I think on that topic, over to Peter. I think one of the delegates asked, how do you tell your story in an interview? How do you do that? Could you help us, Peter?
Well, stories are interesting because those lists we were talking about earlier about the things that are compulsory or essential versus desirable. In a conversation, you're not going to come up with, I am hardworking, I am punctual, I am reliable, I am a multitasker, or as the last speaker mentioned, which I agree with, by the way, there's no such thing as multitasking. I had a client who was applying for jobs, but he didn't have a university degree.
Huh?
He didn't have a university degree, and a university degree for this particular job was an essential.
Right.
But what he did is he got through because of the CV that we'd written. And then they asked about resilience. On their essential list, there was resilience, there was calm under pressure, there was a bunch of these sort of pretty normal descriptions or characteristics that would have come in as essential. So they asked him about this, and instead of going on and saying, yes, I'm very hardworking and I'm very robust and I can handle crisis, he told about a story when he was in charge of a train station. He was in charge of St Pancras, and he was the station manager of St Pancras when the train disaster happened. He didn't have the rank, he didn't have the position, he didn't have the title, but he took over and he told a story about how he handled this crisis. Everything from how everything was fine in the morning and then this accident and this disaster happened, what he did, how he did it, how he managed to cope with it, and what came out at the end. And he told the story, we'd worked on the story together, it was compellingly delivered, it didn't have anything in it that was extraneous, it had enough to tell how this man had operated under an exceptional circumstance on a catastrophic day where many people died, where there was panic and just crisis all around him. And because he told that story, what had been an essential criteria, the fact, you know, a piece of paper that proved that he was able to do X, Y, and Z, his storytelling had proved that he was more than equipped. And they hired him, and then he moved on to a series of other roles, increasingly with PLCs, where he went up and up and up. He still doesn't have a degree. But actually the degree, for many jobs, a degree, not for a clinician, but in many normal non-clinician jobs, having a degree is there to sift people out. But because he told his story so well, he was sifted in and won the job. So people don't believe you if you say, I have a list, I have the following list of attributes: hardworking, patient, team player, because you wouldn't say those, you wouldn't say you weren't those things. People aren't going to believe you if you say, well, their reaction is, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Telling a story proves that you possess these characteristics in a far more memorable and retellable way than any claims to any characteristics would be.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Peter. I'll pass on to Cameron now, who can take some further questions from what we've had come on the question and answer session. Cameron's a GP trainee in Walsall and is also helping me run this session.
Right. Hi. Thank you for taking time out this afternoon and joining us. How do you become a GP trainer or TPD? And how do you get involved with prison medicine? You know, what's your workload like working in cardiology? And a very quick answer to that, because I know you can answer them very quickly.
Okay, so let's take that in the reverse order. Workload in cardiology. So we see patients, you know, 30 minutes appointment for new patients, 15 minutes for follow-ups. Okay, so 3.5 hour session with a half an hour admin is how it works. Okay, for a cardiology session. Second question was prison doctors. Now, prison doctors, you don't need a special qualification for it. You just need to go through an induction program of understanding what the responsibilities are going to be in prison environment, and doing a couple of placements and observations in the local. And once you've done that, that is, the job is as simple as doing a general practice. The only difference you have to remember is you will be expected to do a couple of things which are more than a normal GP, which is substance abuse. Okay, substance abuse and misuse and mental health is a biggie for both of them in that role. So you just develop that and go for that. So that's the answer to that. What were the last one with regards to TPD and GP trainer? So to become a GP trainer, you need to be 3-year post CCT, and there is no relaxation to that rule. Okay, you have to be 3 years as a GP post CCT to apply for GP trainer course. As simple as that. So you can't do that. But to apply for TPD, there are some of us who applied for TPD post CCT. I became a TPD, I think 6 months or 9 months post TPD, post CCT. So there is no what do I call it? Catches there. Now, actually, those of you who are interested in TPD, there is this job advert that's just come out literally today. This is a TPD vacancy. I've just put it on the chat. There's a TPD vacancy coming up in Coventry and Warwickshire. It's a fixed term post, and obviously they'll extend it, based on the requirement. So these posts keep coming out all the time. Look on NHS jobs for TPD. TPD, there's no, as long as you can prove you got an educational track record, you've done something in terms of delivering, developing, training, and there's potential they'll take you up at any time, really. Other criteria are if you've done medical education, diploma or degree, that helps. There are desirables. But as I said to you, nothing is essential. Post CCT, it all depends on how well, Peter just mentioned, how well you do at the interview, how you build that story on that day, isn't it? Okay, any other questions on that? Or did I cover all three? Yeah,
you did. I think that was very good. Just, I think there are questions that are there for specific roles.
Carry on.
Like,
how
do you develop?
As well.
Sorry?
I've just received a question from one of you, somebody who's on the call, and they've asked a question about how do you, it says about, do you have to be a GP trainer to apply as a TPD? No, you can apply without being a trainer.
Okay. So I think there are quite a few questions which are regarding how do you develop a certain role, and I think things like ER and all, there are.
ER, there is acute care fellowships that were going around, so actually there is opportunity to do that. So those of you who are in Midlands, you could do it, but there are also post CCT fellowships that are being developed differently in different regions. I mean, for example, Wessex, I know, has developed special GP fellowships for becoming education medical educators. Okay. I know Southampton have done something completely different with regards to CCT fellowship. Again, it depends where you're going to practice. If those of you who are staying in Midlands, we can talk about Midlands, but those who are going to move out and go somewhere else, then you look at what the opportunities are locally in that area, what your PCNs are doing, what your local CCG is doing. Post CCT fellowships is out there. Everyone's offering it in a different format. It varies from CCG to CCG, region to region. Okay. North Staff up the M5 is offering a completely different concept of post CCT fellowship than Black Country. Doesn't make sense. So again, you need to first decide. First and foremost, all of you need to decide which is the area you're going to practice in, and which is the area you're going to live in. Okay. And then you go out and start to seek out opportunities in that area, in that PCN, in that CCG, in that, it's a backward journey from there, isn't it? First, you need to decide where you want to be. Some of you may say, actually, I don't care where I want to be. I just want to be in the right place where I can get the right post CCT fellowship. Then so be it, right? And again, all of these will be available on NHS jobs. Okay, every vacancy comes up on NHS jobs like that. And the other place to find out all this is BMJ careers, on their website, BMJ jobs. So those are the two big ones. Okay, there are lots of other websites that pick up, but NHS jobs is your best bet, really. TPD vacancies go there, local fellowships go there.
Just thank you very much for all of the speakers for joining us today. Greg, I'm sure we'll send what we'll do, we'll send out details for each of the speakers so you can pose any questions directly to them if you want, because it's coming up to time now. And thank you very much for 100 of you that are still staying with us. If I can close with the last question to Peter, if that's okay, leading on from what Dr. Singh said about establishing yourself in a role and in a locality, and leading on from things, building on from one thing to the next, and setting a trail, because I know Peter is a comms expert, and he's worked for the PCT as a comms director. So I just wondered if you can tell us a bit more about how you do that on a day-to-day basis, leading your team and then leading on to the roles and subsequently building a career based on that.
Peter, you're definitely the flavor of the afternoon, right?
I don't think so.
They love you. I'm really impressed.
I disagree with something that you mentioned, actually. I'm going to agree with you first on the point about the most important word that you can say is no. But I'm also going to disagree with exactly the same thing by saying, when there's opportunities, grab them. you will often regret the things that you didn't grab. And so when I think you were talking about saying no, is be choosy, be selective. I have had fantastic opportunities offered to me, and they don't always come with a big badge saying this is an opportunity, or a flag saying, or music saying an opportunity is about to approach and you should take advantage of it. Sometimes it's simply an invitation to go along to an event in a community, or be part of a panel in a community, which could be a very unflashy looking event. But it's those types of opportunities that there is a thing, you know, karma is a thing. You do more than your 9 to 5 or whatever your contracted hours are, and things do come back. Of course, you're correct that you have to say no to a lot of things, and you have to be choosy, because the things that you do say yes to, you have to deliver on in a way that enhances your reputation and your brand and your positioning. But be alert for things that are value added. I mean, that Martin Clune's show, Dr. Martin, he's almost like a parody of how not to get involved in a community. And when you have made the choice about where you are going to be, getting involved and giving time without jeopardizing your own work-life balance, but contributing to the community and seeing it in a non-mercenary way pays out. And you know, we've seen that over the last 4 months, where some people in quasi-public positions have enhanced their roles and others have become invisible. So yes, say no in terms of limiting your time, but also when there's opportunities, just check everything that comes along and see if it is an opportunity that could benefit the community and yourself in doing so.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for all of you that have joined us. There's still 88 of you live, so I think that draws us to close. If you wouldn't mind joining me in thanking Dilsher for joining us to talk about fellowships. Thank you very much, Dilsher. Peter, for joining us to give us the best advice about winning the job and defining our careers and going forward. And I think Greg has left us already, unfortunately. So that's we'll look forward to working with him on future events, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on the 30th for the next subsequent event, and hopefully with many more of you attending live. And we'll follow this up with an email with more details and contact as promised. Thank you very much. Brilliant.